Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Taylor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Life Administration. My name is Ryan Taylor, and with me, as always, is...
Leslie Loftus. Hello.
Hello, hello. So there's a bit of irony that has happened.
So what, 2 weeks ago? No, it would have been about 3 or so weeks ago, because the freeze was 2 weeks ago. And it was probably 2 weeks before that we recorded the gardening episode.
So if you don't know, and I'm sure that you do, because a lot of the country was affected by the Arctic blast. It wasn't just Houston, right? So there was
it's just Texas that lost power.
Right. Ooh.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't know, what happened was we had an Arctic blast come in, and Texas, we do our own power. We're not on the national grid because Texas, right? So our grid went down, state lost power, and that was...
Not only do we do our own power, but we do it geared towards August.
Right.
When we need it.
Right.
It's
exactly.
Not having a 5-day freeze just...
It's not on the cards.
Yeah, I'm almost 50. I've never seen this.
Yeah. No. It's a hard spot, right? Because if you're the guy that's like, okay, I'm putting the plans together for the Texas power grid, and like you're about to ask me, hey, do you want to protect against 5-day freezes? Your obvious response is going to...
I'm going to roll my eyes.
Right.
Well, 2 months ago, I would have rolled my eyes.
Right.
Now I say, yes, of course.
Right. And so, yeah, right. So we had a mess. Anyway, long story short, because we had the freeze, we had the browning of all of grass and trees and everything.
Everything
died.
is brown. Stuff that is normally evergreen in Houston or just, it looks awful out there.
It's rough.
Right. And
like deadwood.
Right. Exactly. Like deadwood. Yeah.
Right.
Not the show. Actual deadwood.
Actual deadwood.
Yes. And we recorded a gardening episode, basic gardening. Like, how do you thinking, it'll post about as spring's coming on, as people are starting to think. It posted as everything was freezing.
It posted on Monday. So it might have come off a little tone deaf.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't our intention, but that's just the way the schedule went.
Not like we could fix it because we were out of power. Like once it went up, there was no switching anything around.
Yeah, you can't take that bad boy down. So anyway, hopefully you found some humor in that, because we had to. We certainly did.
We had to.
Yeah. And so with all those things being dead, it just wasn't plants, right? Like it was a lot of other things in people's homes and in their houses.
Yep. If you live in our neck of the woods, there is a whole our neck of the very, very brown woods.
Yes.
There is a whole lot of insurance claim filings going on because there is property damage galore. Because what happens? In a place that is not ready for 5-day freezes, guess what we don't do? We don't insulate our houses against cold. We insulate them to shed heat, which when it freezes for 5 days,
causes some problems.
It gets cold. I mean, my house inside, my lowest thermostat read 40.
Yes.
About 3 hours before we got our power back, because we were at the beginning. Also, they started everybody on rolling blackouts, but those rolling blackouts became
blackouts.
Just plain old blackouts.
Minus the rolling.
Exactly. No rolling. So we lost our power early on in the whole thing, and didn't get it back for 40 something. It was almost 2 days.
Yeah.
It was almost 2 days. It got really, really, really cold in the house, and the house is built to shed heat, and oh my goodness, did it. So lots of people had water damage claims, and then, and then I think I need to make an auto claim now. I'm looking at it because we lost a pipe in the garage, and the garage ceiling collapsed. Well, it collapsed onto my car. Well, while the car was covered with sheetrock and stuff, it didn't look like it really had anything but like sheetrock that I would be able to wipe off the gypsum dust. Now that I've tried that a couple of times, well, now it's dented in a couple of places, and it looks like no. So I'm going to need some body work to fix. So now I get to make an auto claim. So Ryan and I, as we often do with these episodes, we kind of, life administration happens while you're making all these other plans. So we tend to run our life administration topics when we're doing the life administration as it is.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about.
And let me just say this before we start. It took 52 episodes, but that was the perfect segue.
There we go. Okay.
52 episodes.
So
We've had 52 shots at it.
For anybody who's new, Ryan and I have kind of been competing for the most awkward segue.
That was great.
Right in like the 40 episodes, something like the segues were getting really awkward. This is a good one. Yes. Today we're going to talk about insurance claims because we're all making them.
Let's rock and roll. So let's talk about the mechanics of filing. The first note on our show notes.
Okay. First of all, you need to figure out what kind of insurance you need to file for. Obviously, if you're doing medical, we're not really talking about medical insurance claims. Just put this off. This is property stuff. So you need to figure out which insurance policy you need to file with. For instance, my car that got damaged in the burst pipe incident. Do I file that with auto insurance or do I file that with homeowner's insurance because it's a burst pipe, right? So I am actually probably going to notice both of them. I think it's going to end up on my car insurance because it's actual damage to the car. But I'm going to go ahead and tell my claims people because I've already had to put in a claim, obviously, for the burst pipe. I'm going to tell my homeowners people, I'm not exactly sure which one it's going to end up, but sometimes you have to think through, okay, well, which is it? Homeowners, auto? Is it excess? So sometimes you have excess property. Let's say you're an art collector. So your house is, you've insured your house for something, but you'll have a rider, or you'll have an extra policy for the fact that you keep a lot of original artwork. That won't be covered under a normal home insurance policy. So you get a special property insurance policy, right? So which thing these things fall into? You need to think through that.
Yeah. I mean, to that point, I have a special insurance policy on my renter's insurance because of all this computer equipment I have.
Yep.
Right. So I have lights and cameras, laptops, my main editing and / gaming rig. So we're talking, $25,000 to $30,000 worth of stuff, well, that
wouldn't fall,
right.
Exactly. Wouldn't fall under a regular renter's insurance policy, okay, now let's go back a little bit. So you're getting your insurance policy back when you're moving into a new place and stuff like that. You need to think through, if you have, your typical job, you're getting a house, you're a family of 2, you have 1 dog and you're an accountant. Okay, then most likely the, regular insurance policy, that's probably going to be, okay. You are an artist. You are a musician like Ryan, who has if you have stuff out of the ordinary, you're a special kind of collector or whatever, anything that hit, then when you were getting your homeowner's insurance, ask your insurance agent about that. If you only have a few things, then they might attach a little rider to a policy saying we're adding an extra, I don't know, $25,000 to cover this. That's one option. But if you are, you're a rock musician and you have a collection of antique special guitars, you want to get separate policies for that collection.
Or you have a piano. Right. Like a piano. Right. You know what I mean? Like that's something that you would want to consider.
So if you just think through, if you're kind of out of the ordinary, out of the typical things that most people have in their houses, then you need to consider other supplemental insurance to cover that kind of stuff.
Yep. Great call out. So then the timing of the claim is very important.
Best to file as close to the claim as possible. Like, for instance, going back to Eileen and the disaster. I think she was on the phone with her insurance company while the fire was still, it was mostly going on. Obviously, you need to make sure that your people and your pets and everything's safe first. Right. But the first opportunity you have to ping your insurance company that you have a loss, take it.
Right.
First of all, if it's a weather event like this and everybody is filing in on this stuff, well, you kind of want to get it, the front of the queue. Well, and we will do, because there's a little bit of a caveat at that one that we'll talk kind of at the end. But, you want to get in on the queue as quickly as you can. Also, you want to take pictures and stuff like that. So start already, even if it's as it's happening, taking pictures and documenting. And the faster, I prefer written. Most insurance companies now, you can do some sort of e-filing or whatever. So, but even if you're just sending an email to your insurance agent, That's a timestamp. That's
Mhm.
evidence and timestamp. So, okay, yes, this is going on at this time. Sometimes you're going to need that evidence later on. Sometimes you won't. But you know what? You've already got it. You've already notified your insurance. I don't care if it's 10:30 at night.
Yep.
They can go through the emails later.
Yeah, and a lot of times, so like I have Liberty Mutual,
Mhm.
and on the app, and I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, so I don't mean to sort of jump ahead, but you in the app, you can take pictures
Yes.
and upload them to the like your account, your file, right? So I have my computer, I have my guitars, I have Lauren's wedding stuff, right? So you can go and you take pictures. So then when it's time to like, okay, then this happens, right?
Right.
The disaster strikes.
The
And so-
pipe burst. Let's just do for our example today.
Right.
Let's use a pipe burst.
The pipe bursts.
Right. Water damage.
I literally go onto my phone and go like, okay, these are the items that like my high ticket items. They've already taken pictures of. The serial numbers are already put in there from the pictures. I literally click it, send it, and I'm done. Like it's so fast. So there is, as with all things life administration, if you do the work on the front end, which isn't always great, you think
and
like,
it takes more time because
right.
it was a pain in the butt probably to go around and take pictures of all the stuff and then pull up the serial numbers and pain in the. So much easier to do when there's not water pouring in from your ceiling.
Right.
When the water's pouring in from your ceiling, and you can't even turn it on to go to the settings to find what the serial number is. And then by the way, you don't have power. So you're flipping it over and you're trying to magnify glass with a flashlight so you can see the little tiny number at the bottom. Right. This is for as much of a pain as it is to do that stuff at the beginning when you're getting the insurance policy. No comparison to how much of a pain it is if you're trying to do it during the emergency.
Absolutely. So I remember Eileen in our old disaster episode. I can remember her because I was like, wow, this is such a great idea. But she just went around every room of her house and just recorded.
Right. Opening up cabinets and drawers, just kind of recorded everything. So you have, in her case, the house burnt down, but then she had a record of this is the stuff we had.
Yeah. Which is super cool. Like that. I remember that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had gotten from that episode. So much so that I went home and did it because like that takes 7 minutes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It takes 7 minutes, and this 7 minutes could really, really help you much later on down the line because you're not trying to draw things from memory.
Right.
At least, I mean, I've walked into my house so many times that like when something is moved or different, I don't even really necessarily like notice it. So how am I supposed to notice it when like the whole house is gone?
Right. The wall is no longer And the wall no longer exists.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to remember was on it or next to it or all my visual clues are gone.
And I know that's maybe not the experience that everybody has, but for me, you want to have that sort of stuff. So okay, commercial break is over.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Now Ryan talked about his app. Mine has email. Specific filing methods are going to depend on your specific insurance company. Okay. Some of them have like really great new apps and stuff. Other ones of them will have lots of service people that are taking emails. And so you need to figure out, go to their website, call your agent. Best thing to do is kind of when you're getting the policy, just kind of take a quick perusal. Okay. If, imagine that you had a car accident or imagine that you had a pipe burst, how would I file for this? And just do kind of a quick walkthrough of, okay, that's what I do. And then file it away for later, just in your head of, okay, that's what happens if I have a claim. But yes, the exact mechanisms are going to depend on your insurance company, but they are all going to want, description of what happened and the damage.
Yep.
Okay. They're all going to want pictures.
Yes.
Right. So they want date, time, they want details, and they want photos to come with it. So take the images as soon as possible after the event. Again, pets, people, make sure they're safe. But, when you have water coming in your ceiling from the burst pipe in your garage, go ahead and take pictures of, the sheetrock sitting on the hood of your car that's come down from the small waterfall coming out of your ceiling.
Yep. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Then the other thing they're going to want and that you're going to want to think through quick, they're going to want to know what mitigation efforts you took. So back to our burst pipe analogy. Did you turn off the water main to the house or the water to that section of the house?
Right.
Right. they want to know that you actually took some steps to reduce the amount of damage that occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to document that as well.
For like the computer example that I talk about, if I plug my computer straight into the wall without a surge protector, they're going to just go, well, what are you thinking, man? You know what I mean? Like, dude, come on.
Do you live in a place that has lightning storms? Matter of fact, all sorts of places have lightning storms. And yeah.
So it can be burst pipe. It can be electronics. It can be, if I had a fire at my house, well, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, the fire pit was 36 inches away from my umbrella. And then,
which was wood and canvas and not treated. And then that was under a tree. And really?
Right.
Really?
So there is, and
and there comes a point where you can get to be enough at fault where the insurance company's like,
yeah.
Right. So that's one thing too. But even after it's done, make sure you I had a fire extinguisher for that kitchen fire, but I just didn't think of using it.
Right.
So I let the fire rage.
I'm gonna ask the
most people aren't gonna do that, but still.
I'm gonna ask the lawyer in the room.
Okay. Whoops.
But there is in law, isn't there like something called like the common sense standard or something like that? Like
for most torts and stuff like that, there's a person of ordinary prudence, the reasonable man. Yes. And then there's all sorts of common sense. What would the person of ordinary prudence,
right? What
would they do in this situation? You need to be pretty much in everything. You need to be living up to that standard from a legal standpoint.
Right.
Because otherwise, then you open yourself up to all sorts of
as you get like negligence,
exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's something to think through when you're doing your preparation or when you're doing, is this reasonable? Is this a reasonable way that most people would act? Or am I just kind of out on a limb here just because I want to make it quick or whatever?
Right.
So, something to think through there.
Okay. Again, things vary by insurance company, but in most cases, you're going to have somebody that is your contact point for handling your claim, and they are going to send out a person called an adjuster. Now, the adjuster, think of it when you're building a house or something like that, and the inspector comes out to make sure that the wiring is done properly, right? The adjuster is kind of like an inspector, but for the after the fact. The adjuster comes out and looks at how much damage there was, what needs to be done to fix it. They're going to advise the insurance company, okay, this person is now going to need a plumber and a contractor and a carpenter, and a painter. And matter of fact, the job's big enough that they're probably going to need a general contractor on it. So they give the insurance company an idea of how much work is going to be involved and how much expense is going to be involved. Okay. And they also give you this idea as well, but the adjuster works for the insurance company. So the adjuster's also looking for fault. So let's go to something slightly different. Fire. Okay.
My favorite.
Fire. One of the things they're looking for is possible arson, because, as we know from every crime detective show and all sorts of TV shows, sometimes people will put, policies on a property and then they'll burn the property down to collect the insurance. I mean, it's a great plot point, not a great plot point, but it's a common plot point in shows. All right. Adjusters come out and look for stuff like that. And there are certain telltale signs that they know, then they can report back to the insurance company and say, yeah, that was arson.
Yeah. just so you know.
Yeah. And then, by the way, arson, you're not going to collect on your insurance policy. Yeah.
No.
So just be aware that there is an adjuster person coming out to inspect the damage in most cases. Now, for instance, right now in Houston and much of Texas, when there is so much plumbing damage and adjusters are completely stretched thin, I think they're probably, most insurance companies are sending the adjusters out for the really big, new builds, at least in Houston, are required to have fire suppression sprinkler systems, which of course then sprinkler systems are designed to sprinkle everything, the walls, because they're designed to put out fires, right? Okay. Well, they weren't insulated. So a lot of people that had, and also they're on a separate water system. So even when you turned off stuff and you were dripping pipes to prevent freezing, there are a lot of time that froze.
Right.
And those burst. Okay. And then water's okay. So I have multiple friends that have, water burst in 13, 15, 16 places. Most of the time, or much of the time, it was because their fire suppression system burst. Adjusters are going out and looking at that. I have not yet had an adjuster. My insurance company is kind of trusting me on okay, you got one burst pipe in a garage. I'm a lower priority for the adjuster. They're not really worried about.
Yeah.
Right.
if you're gonna do fraud that way, that's a bad way to do it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's the hard way to do fraud, but they're so busy. They're handling all the big stuff.
Yeah.
So, but usually if you just have a one-off, you actually, this actually happened to me once, ran over the sprinkler head in our yard. Somehow it got run over and so it was burst. And then I had parked my car outside and it was a lovely day and I'd forgotten and I'd left the sunroof open. Well, the burst pipe or the sprinkler came on at 4:00 in the morning and it was bursting. So, when the head is burst, the water goes straight up and like a geyser, right? Just parked in the party right into my sunroof. Fried my car, right? Okay, so if you have some sort of one-off thing like that, they sent an adjuster out for that. Right now, I have not had an adjuster for my burst pipe or the pool pumps that are dead, and that's all we had happen in ours, which is we'll take it.
Yeah.
Because it's comparatively speaking, it's small level stuff.
Yeah,
but usually you get one.
Same thing for me when I had a computer thing happen at my house, and it was a power surge. I send them the pictures. Here's the items.
Right.
Here's how much it costs. Here's what you can buy it for today. And I mean, like 3 days later, it was done, closed, over with.
Right.
So
it kind of depends. They'll send out an adjuster when they think they need to. You need to assume they're going to send an adjuster. But sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
The adjuster, sometimes if you need an adjuster to come out, then it depends on your policy, what kind of policy you had. Think of a health insurance policy, a PPO, when you get to choose your own preferred provider. Some homeowners insurance policies are the same way, that you can choose your own plumber. And other ones, no, we require, this is our list of plumbers that we accept. Or these are the type of, you have to get one that's licensed in the state of Texas or so you can have different restrictions depending on your policy on who you can use. Most of the time, that's not a big deal. But in a situation like this, when a natural disaster is called off, you don't right now, plumbers aren't even taking calls.
No, you can't. Yeah.
You can't get one. And part of the reason is if they're signed up with an insurance company, then they've just got all of those policyholders that they're going through.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it depends on your specific policy. I'm fortunate. I like this. Mine allows me to pick my own people.
Oh, that's really nice.
Right.
Yep.
So that works.
Yeah.
That works, but that's not always the case. And so you might expect, so you call in for a claim or you send in something for a claim, you have a burst pipe and your computer dies and your kitchen is damaged. Okay. Now you have to talk with the claims person. They set up time to send out the adjuster. Then the adjuster reports back to the insurance company. This is what needs. And then the insurance company requests the plumber and the carpenter and all that kind of stuff. And stuff starts set up that way. And it will take, all of these damages will take weeks too. But now you're kind of, if the insurance company is acting as a middleman, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get this stuff through. But that's generally how it works. You don't actually get the full repairs done until after the adjuster has come out and analyzed everything and figured out what trades you need, and then they get the trades to you. Now, everybody's going to want to make sure that it gets fixed. So they're going to want to turn off the water. They're going to want to fix the pipe. So for right now, our pipe in our garage is fixed and plugged. We got that done within a day or so.
Right.
But it's going to be weeks before we get the sheetrock fixed because everybody, there's so many priorities right now, so many
Right.
people that need so much. A hole in my garage is just not a big deal now that the leak is plugged. So a good insurance company will make sure not only that you mitigated the damage, but they will go to mitigate this. So they'll make it so that you can actually function for a while, at least to the point that they can. But the finishing repairs might take longer.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good point too, because especially like if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably one of the people that like they just want to get things done, right? From point A to point B. And this process can take a long time. Like it could be a while before it could be a month, maybe even 2, depending on that sheetrock. So it's a mindset thing. You got to know going into it that what you're going to be dealing with. Also, this is just more of like a personal note. This isn't necessarily going to help you with an insurance claim, but if they do send an adjuster, I want you to think about this person and what they're going through right now. So they may not be in the best mood ever. They may be a little harsh. They may be a little, and it's tough, right? You're going through it and you're, some of these people are saying like, that's probably not going to work. They're having to say no to some, right? So,
some people are probably more panicked about smaller, like, because the adjuster is now seeing, 10 sites a day for weeks of extensive home damage. It takes a toll.
It takes a toll. So afford them some grace, some extra respect, maybe be nicer than you normally would, because that's a tough gig, especially in weather or area things that happen, right? When if it's one thing, if like
one-offs are different, but when you've got weather events like this that affect everybody, but honestly, I kind of did that with my pool guy, because my pool guy, he's exhausted. Yeah, he's exhausted. I mean, pool equipment around here is not. First of all, the weather is lovely 9 months out of the year. So tons of us have pools. Right. Like, I mean, it's just it's a typical thing. Middle class and up, you have your own backyard pool. No, the piping and the works aren't insulated, but we have this great thing now. It's a safety thing that if the temperature gets below 35, your pool comes on so it circulates water and it doesn't freeze. But not if your power goes out.
Not if your power goes out.
My pool guy, poor guy, he's just, because he's having to replace pumps and heaters and by the way, while all this stuff is not working, the pools are getting moldy and gross. And I mean, so it is 5 times the job that it normally is. Like he's a guy that doesn't really like, one of the reasons he got into this is he doesn't like, kind of like you in the music lessons, he wants to have control of his own schedule and stuff. He doesn't really want to work weekends, and so he likes it. He likes being outside. He likes it most of the time. Right now, everything is so broken that he's having to work. If there were an 8th day, he'd be working 8 days a week. Yeah. Right. He just can't keep up and he looks exhausted. Yeah. So some extra grace for some of these people that are helping you out, because
it's tough. It's tough when you're in that role. For sure. Cool. So, All right.
Big thing we haven't talked about yet.
Big one.
Big one. Okay. Most homeowners insurance or in auto insurance, come with a deductible.
Hate the deductible.
Okay. Hate the deductible. At the time that you would have notified so back up to, we notified the insurance company. Usually your contact, one of the first things they will let you know is, okay, well, this is your deductible. You have a $500 deductible. You have a $10,000, whatever it is. That means that you have to pay for that amount of damage before your insurance coverage kicks in. Okay. But in order to activate your deductible, then you also have to, so you have to document the repairs that are being made. So it has to be something covered under your insurance policy. You have to document that you're spending that much money. So let's say you have a $2,000 deductible. Okay. So you have to document that you spent $2,000 on repairs, and the whole repair job by the time you're done with it is $10,000. So you want $8,000 from your insurance company, but you've got to document the entire $10,000.
Yeah.
Right, because they're not going to kick in until they see proof of that you paid the $2,000 worth of the deductible.
That's right.
Correct.
So something to consider when you're getting your policy is, what number do you feel comfortable with?
Right.
Because you're going to be able to, to change it. Maybe it's 500, maybe it's 2,000, maybe it's 4,000, right? You got to do what makes sense for you.
Right. And what you need to consider is, first of all, policies with lower deductibles tend to be more expensive. So if you have a higher deductible, you can probably get your policy for cheaper, which is great, but that exposes you to more risks. So you need to consider, so if disaster strikes on my house, what can I pay out of pocket? Just as surprise, guess what? You've got this bill now. So if you can pay a couple thousand out of pocket, then have a higher deductible. I mean, maybe you have listened to our podcast on financial management and stuff like that. And so you have been saving, you've been able to, you've put money in savings now for a while. So you've got 15% on that. And now you've got it set up so that you do have your 6 months kind of cash reserve going. So what we talked about in that episode was whatever income you were bringing in, save 10 or 15% of it, or some portion of it at least, to try and build a cash nest of about 6 months worth of expenses. Okay. If you've already gotten to that point, then frankly, you could take the savings, 10% or whatever.
Yep.
If you didn't put that into savings 1 month because you had a surprise occurrence, you could do that.
Yep.
Because now you've already got it all saved up, or, you've got it all saved up so you could actually use some of it, because that's part of why you have 6 months of expenses is for emergencies like this. If you have that kind of flexibility, then you can have a slightly higher deductible. And if you get hit with so you get hit with 10,000 of damage and you need to pay the 2,000 up the front, and then they pay, you'll have time to build your nest egg back up, because the idea is there if you need to use it.
Yeah.
And that would bring down your monthly, or some insurance is paid, or lots of insurance is paid every 6 months.
Yeah.
So bi-yearly. So that would bring down your bill considerably. If you don't have that kind of flexibility, then you need to have a lower deductible insurance policy.
Yeah.
And that's just for you to do the balancing and figuring out.
Right. And to me, the flip side of it too is know your situation, right? So as a renter, for me, maybe I don't have, that's not true. I have the money for a big deductible, but it doesn't make sense as a renter for me to have that. So what makes a lot more sense, because if you don't know, renter's insurance is super cheap, super cheap.
Homeowners insurance is not.
No, yeah, but on the renter's side, maybe $30 a month. And if you take, if you go onto the website and you move the little slider for you're choosing your policy, and you move it all the way to I want to have a small deductible, the amount that's going to go up for renter's insurance is going to be $8. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of look at that and say in my case, it probably just makes sense to have a bigger, and I'm using air quotes if you can't see, a bigger policy, because my deductible isn't really going to be anything to worry about, right?
Right, and the landowner,
proportionally, it doesn't.
The landlord who actually owns the property is going to have insurance on top of that for damage. So unless Ryan and his family did the actual damage to the house, most of the damage to the house is going to be on the homeowner's policy, not the renter's policy.
And the renter's policy is my stuff. Is my stuff that's inside. So computers, music equipment, right? The things furniture, that I really care about. Yeah, exactly. TVs, all that sort of stuff. So you got to look at your situation and see what makes the most sense for you.
But deductible is all about figuring out how much risk can you carry versus how much of a monthly payment can you carry.
Yep. That's it.
You just balance through that.
That's it. Cool. Awesome. Good explanation.
There we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Other considerations that you may have.
Okay. Honestly, I think this next one, I've seen it act more in auto insurance than in homeowners insurance, but it does play. How much does your claim affect your future coverage? So for instance, if you're making lots of claims on your homeowner's policy, and certainly if you make lots of claims on your auto policy, you might find your premiums go up. because now you're a hybrid. Or actually, it's a little more if, let's say, you go for 5 years without making any claim on your auto policy, you get a 10% discount in your premium. Okay. You go off and you make a claim, then suddenly that 10% discount goes away. Right. So if it's a small claim, obviously, if it's a big claim, you've got a $20,000 car auto insurance policy and you've got 10,000 worth of damage, but it didn't total the car or whatever, or it did total the car, whichever. Then this little 10% thing, this little, how much is it going to affect your future coverage is not a thing. But, you were in a little fender bender. You've got a deductible of $500 on your auto policy, and the guy tells you it's going to be $750 repair. So you could go ahead and, do you want to claim and lose that 10% for the next 5 years, and even though you can cover the stuff, you need to think through that. If it's a smaller claim, you might not want to make the claim on your insurance.
It might just be me.
Uh-huh.
I can't speak for everyone, but anytime I've ever made a claim on any kind of insurance, it has gone up. Anytime. Anytime. And whether that is from, a good driving discount or, hey, you've been with us for 5 years, you didn't have a claim, like whatever sort of, they may not say, we're going to raise your rates X amount of dollars. You just might lose one of those precious discounts that you have that you have no idea about, right? You know, when you sign up and they're like, and you're going to get this discount. And
because you've had the insurance policy for 10 years. You haven't thought about it. You haven't looked at it really. I mean, because who looks at an insurance policy except when something goes wrong?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And even then, you don't really look at the policy. You call up your agent and you make the claim, and and then you're talking with the adjuster people and the claims people and stuff. Are you really? I mean, I'm a lawyer. So sometimes I am, but how many people are really going into the nitty gritty, looking at the policy that they signed and saying, okay, these are the parameters. So I'm going to lose this discount, that discount, the other discount, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. So making more claims can sometimes bump up your risk group, bump up your premium. There might be consequences that you don't foresee. So if it's a small claim, you do want to kind of think through whether or not you want to make the claim.
Right. I mean, obviously there are cases. I mean, that's why you have insurance, right? When the big things happen, you want to use it. But you have to be thinking like, oh yeah, it'd be nice that this $750 bill are really only $250 because I have my $500 deductible, but then my thing goes up $25, and then by the end of the year, I'm actually down money. So you gotta look through that. Awesome. Okay, cool. Next.
Time of year. Okay. So again, deductibles. This plays. You have a $2,000 deductible on your homeowner's insurance, and you have some hail damage on your roof, whatever, and it's going to cost you $1,500. Okay. Is it January? And you have the entire year to so now I've got a $2,000 deductible and I've kind of used up $1,500 on this one claim in January. So if I have another claim, I most likely am going to have coverage for that one. Even if it's going to bump up my premium a little bit or something, or have consequences, I'm more likely to claim on that one. If it's December, and I haven't had any claims this year, and now I'm going to have to pay the $1,500 out of pocket anyway, because it's within my deductible. So I might not claim it on my insurance at all, because the chances that I'm going to hit that other $500 in an additional claim later on, in the next couple of weeks, small.
Yeah.
Small. So you kind of think through that.
Dude, insurance is like going to the casino. I mean, it really is.
It really is.
It really is.
It's a form of gambling protection.
Absolutely. Like when you really look at it, like that's what you're doing. And so like, you gotta play the game a little bit.
You have to play the game. And so you need to know
within the bounds of the law, of course, but just understanding that it's not, you can't just say, when this happens, do this. Like, it's not that simple, right? It's just like in blackjack, for example, if the dealer is showing a king and I have a 16, well, like, I should hit. Like, this is what you do. This is what the odds say. This is what you need to do. It's a little bit different with insurance because it's not as clear, right? You just have to.
But it has some of those gaming elements to it. And frankly, the older I get and the more I go through this, the more I'm really about catastrophic coverage. Yeah. I would rather, so switching for a moment to health coverage and stuff, I would honestly rather pay for the yearly ophthalmologist, eye doctor appointments, and
Right.
the well woman checks, and the kids, the dentist thing, and then be prepared and completely covered if, oh my goodness, I have a ruptured appendix and
Right.
have catastrophic and need to be hospitalized, or I have to have surgery. I'd much rather be covered for those big events and just go ahead and budget for the daily stuff. And that's just, on everything from car tune-ups to homeowner stuff. And like on this house, we got a really large, and actually we've got a large deductible.
Mm-hmm.
Now it looks like with these events, I'm actually going to hit it, and it's January, February. So I'm going to go ahead and go through with it
because now you got the rest of the year.
Right now, the rest of the year, if anything else happens, if I have to replace something on the roof or whatever, I'm covered. But you have to be able to handle, to take the risk load, but Jim and I can take the risk load. So we have high deductibles.
Right. It all. Yeah. And the great thing about that is that you now are sort of your own insurance agent in the sense of, if you're diligent about it and you're putting the money away and then nothing happens, well, hey, great. I'm bonus, right? I won the game.
Money.
Yeah,
exactly.
I won the game. But in 4 months from now, if all of a sudden it's like, well, there was actually some structure issues with this pipe that we didn't see from the freeze, and now that baby breaks.
Right. Now my garage is listing or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. And now suddenly I'm way above my deductible. I have I have a major loss or a catastrophic loss, or one of our neighbors, when the heat went off, they turned on their fireplace and, said it. I'm not sure if it was a gas fireplace or it was real logs or whatever, but within hours, total house loss, burned down. Right. For whatever reason, I don't know if the log sparks flew, whatever, the house caught fire, and total. Much rather be really, really well insured for those events than having to worry about, they're going to cover my, furnace inspection twice a year.
Right.
Or dentistry.
Right.
I can budget for, I need to go see the dentist twice a year.
Yeah.
I need to go see the eye doctor twice a year. I need to get my fireplaces checked, my furnace and my AC checked once a year. I can budget for all of those regular occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
You can't budget for the catastrophic loss.
Yep. No. Hence why we have insurance. Yes.
And the more I deal with insurance, the more I'm all about covering for the catastrophe.
I think that's a great takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to take something away from this episode, I think that should be the thing. You should be prepared for catastrophic, budget for smaller events, because then you get the best of both worlds. The more money that you're giving to someone that's not yours, and I feel that way about taxes too. I never want to get a big tax return. I don't ever want to, and I also want to pay.
Because it means that you were overpaying.
Exactly.
You were being withheld more than you actually owed, which means they were getting the benefit of, even if you're only getting a little percentage in savings, but for a year you'd been overpaying your taxes, and it feels great because you get the refund back.
Right. I can remember.
But it actually means that you overpaid.
Oh, I can remember
You're getting refunded your own money.
Talking to Sean about this a long time ago, where, every year it would come around and he would say to me, how much did you get for your refund? And I'd be like, $400.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, I got $7,000. And so he's so excited about it. And I would be like, okay, so here's what happens. You get the $7,000 that you didn't use for the entire year, by the way, to, make more money or do whatever you want. Then you get this big chunk of change. And then what do you go do? And then you go spend it. Absolutely insanity, right? You just let them borrow your money for a whole year.
For free.
For free. It makes no sense to me. Everyone fights me on that, I feel like.
No, it's a hard concept. But it's one of those, those pictures where it's it's either the old woman or the young lady with the hat.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And every once in a while you can force yourself to see both, but when you see one, you can't really unsee it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. The refund thing is like that. Once you finally see the math of the tax refund, you can't go back. You're That's all I can see.
Yeah.
You had my money and I loaned you my money for free.
For $0.
For $0.
You're welcome.
Right.
Thanks for taking advantage of me, government.
Right.
Yeah.
And you made it feel like a gift to me when you gave it back.
And you made me feel so good when you gave me what was mine. The thing that I worked for. Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so that obviously also applies to insurance. The bigger policy you have, that's how you're playing that. So, and then lastly, we have the extent of damage versus the severity of damage.
Okay, yes. So right now we've got it going on. So for instance, I have the garage that is completely open right now. I've got the pipe repaired.
Yep.
So the leak is no longer happening. The damage is no longer continuing, but I've got a big hole in my garage. But I am no longer pushing either my insurance company or my contractors and stuff to get in here and get this fixed right now because we're okay. Like it's not in my kitchen. It's in my garage. It's outside. And I have so many friends that have 13 pipes burst and stuff. There's a point where, be a nice person. Be good.
Give grace.
Give grace.
Give
yeah,
grace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know it's really nice. I run a podcast on things like to-do lists.
Right.
I really like checking things off the to-do list. I would really much prefer that there was no hole in my garage and that everything was all prepped and it was back to normal.
I can see you every time you get in that car looking up and be like, man, this freaking thing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, kind of definitely get your claim in first so that you have the option to be like, no, I really need this fixed right now. Or, no, I can hold. But if you can hold, again, be nice to your adjusters, be nice to your insurance company, be nice to your neighbors, and let the plumbers go to the houses that have 13 leaks. I'm sorry, a girlfriend of mine had to cancel we were supposed to get together to talk about church stuff. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to cancel. My contractor's on his way over and I've had 13. I'm like, I can't believe you even asked me. Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh. And I didn't know. I'm like 13 pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sweetheart. Go.
Yeah. We'll be seeing you.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later when you're not. Oh my gosh. I felt so bad.
A little bit of perspective goes a long way in these situations. Right. And the idea hopefully is that you're seeing, hey, everybody needs some help. And if you can just offer grace to yourself, right? Not beating yourself up about that thing. And when is it going to happen? And and you're holding on to all that stuff. My advice would be to conjure your inner Elsa from Arendelle and just
you're such a girl,
let it go.
Our girl dad.
Just let it go. Let it go. Everyone in their car was just like, ugh, I can't believe he just said that.
Hey,
but
we're just lucky he didn't sing it.
Yeah. Or are you? Maybe that'd be a treat.
I meant for the earworm, not for your lovely voice.
Oh, goodness. That is all I have on this particular topic. Anything that you have? Closing thoughts?
No, not at the moment.
Cool. Well, I would say that we packed a lot into this episode in a very, very short time.
The insurance stuff, it's amazing. I mean, there's lots of little intricacies that
and it will be interesting since we're at the end of the episode and probably a lot of folks have clicked it off now. But, the inside joke is that insurance does well for us.
It does.
It does well for us.
Insurance 101 is one of our top rated episodes, top listened episodes.
It'll be interesting to see how this goes as well. So with that, if you're listening to us on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to your podcast, do the things that help us out. Give us a 5-star ratings, give us comments, let us know about
all the up things.
Yeah, the up things with the thumbs, right? That's on YouTube. You can do that too. Like, share, and subscribe if you're interested. But other than that, I've been Ryan Talon.
And I have been Leslie Loftus, and y'all have been great.
You've been great. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye, y'all.
Bye.